You know, it's a mystery that has haunted us for what feels like forever. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370? I mean, for over a decade, it's just been this story of dead ends. So many questions, and just nothing for the 239 people on board. But right when you think the trail has gone completely cold, well, it turns out something big has changed.
Yeah, it really is hard to wrap your head around how long it's been. We're talking since March 8th, 2014. And in all that time, the fate of everyone on board has been a total mystery. It's led to, a million different theories, but absolutely zero real, concrete answers. Which brings us right up to today, because now the search is officially back on. A brand new, super targeted search kicked off in late 2025. And right now, as we speak, there's some seriously sophisticated gear scanning a part of the ocean floor that's never been looked at before. And look, this isn't just some shot in the dark. No, this mission is being driven by totally new data and some pretty game-changing tech. So that's really the million-dollar question, isn't it? With all this new technology, all this new data, could this finally be it? Is this the end of the search? That's what we're going to get into. We'll break down why this is all happening now, what makes this search so different from everything that came before, and, what's really on the line here.
Okay, so let's talk about the hunt itself. The company leading the charge is a deep-sea exploration outfit called Ocean Infinity. And this is not like those huge sweeping searches from years ago. Not at all. This is like a surgical strike, totally focused on a very specific, newly identified zone. And man, is it a high-stakes gamble.
How high are the stakes? Well, how does $70 million sound? That's the potential payout from the Malaysian government if they find the plane. But, and this is a huge but, there's a catch. You see, the whole thing is set up as a no-find, no-fee deal. That means if they come back with nothing, they get paid nothing, zero. That should tell you everything you need to know about how confident Ocean Infinity is. They're so sure about their new leads and their tech that they are literally betting the house on finding that plane.
So to really get why they're this confident, we have to rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, back to that night when a massive Boeing 777 just vanished.
Okay, so the flight starts out completely normal. I mean, as routine as it gets. Takes off from Kuala Lumpur, heads for Beijing, climbs up to 35,000 feet, everything's fine, all the communications are standard, and then, in the span of just 2 minutes, it all goes wrong. After one last, very calm radio call, the plane's transponder gets turned off, and it seems like it was turned off deliberately. And just like that, to the rest of the world, MH370 was gone.
And these were the last words anyone ever heard from that plane. Good night, Malaysian 370. Think about that, how calm, how normal that sounds. And it came just seconds before the plane disappeared. Honestly, it's one of the most chilling parts of this whole thing. So with the plane now a ghost on civilian radar, investigators were left scrambling. They had to piece things together using these phantom signals, little digital breadcrumbs that painted a very blurry picture of where the plane went. And those clues pointed them to one of the most remote, desolate places on the entire planet.
And this is where they got their first real break. It turns out, even with all the main communication systems shut down, a little unit on the plane kept automatically pinging a satellite for 6 more hours. So by looking at the timing of those pings, experts were able to draw this huge arc on a map. They call it the 7th arc. And that line, well, that's where they figured the plane probably ran out of fuel and just fell.
Then, years go by, and suddenly proof starts washing up on beaches thousands of miles away. Actual pieces of the plane, carried all that way by the ocean currents, showing up on the coast of Africa. Things like a flaperon found on Reunion Island. This was it. The first hard physical evidence that MH370 really did crash into the Indian Ocean. It basically confirmed that the 7th arc was the right place to be looking.
Right. So you're probably thinking, if they knew the general area, why didn't they find it? I mean, this was the most expensive search in aviation history, and they found nothing. Well, the answer really comes down to 2 things. Just how brutal the environment is down there, and the limitations of the tech they had back then.
Just to give you a sense of what we're dealing with, try to picture this. 23,000 feet. That's how deep it is in some spots. That's more than 4 miles, straight down. We're not talking about a flat, sandy bottom. This is an underwater world of huge mountains, massive volcanoes, deep canyons, and it's all in a part of the ocean famous for having some of the most violent weather on Earth.
And the tech they were using, well, that was a whole other problem. The old way of doing things was to tow this sonar device, they called it a fish, on a super long cable behind a ship. It was kind of clumsy. And imagine this, when that sonar goes over a big underwater mountain, it's like a flashlight. It casts a huge shadow on the other side, a massive blind spot. So it is completely 100% possible that the search ship sailed right over the wreckage and just never saw it.
So, what's different now? Why even try again? Well, it all comes down to two major breakthroughs. Two real game changers that are the entire reason this new search is even happening.
Okay, so the first one is pretty wild. It's basically digital archaeology. A researcher looked back at historical data from this global network of amateur radio signals. The idea is simple. The sky is filled with these signals, right? They're like an invisible tripwire. When something huge and metal, like a Boeing 777, flies through it, it causes a tiny little disturbance. By finding and linking together hundreds of these little disturbances from that night, they've been able to trace a brand new, much more precise flight path. And guess what? It points to an area just south of where they were looking before.
And that brings us to the second game changer, the search tech. This is a whole new ballgame. Forget about that one sonar fish being dragged behind a ship. Ocean Infinity is using a fleet of autonomous underwater drones, AUVs. Think of it like a coordinated swarm of smart robots that map the ocean floor. They're not tied to the ship by a cable, they can dive deep and get right up close to the seabed, and they can get into all those nooks and crannies of the underwater mountains to get rid of those blind spots.
And the way it works is just incredible. The main ship gets to the search area and just releases this whole swarm of drones into the water. They then dive down and start scanning the seafloor all on their own, following a coordinated pattern. They create these super high-resolution, almost picture-perfect images of the bottom. And get this, they have onboard AI that's smart enough to tell the difference between a rock and something man-made. And it'll flag anything that looks like it doesn't belong, like the wreckage of a plane.
Okay, so we've got this new technology, this new hope. But it brings up a big question. After all these years, why does it still matter so much? Why is finding this plane still so important?
Well, finding the wreckage is really just the beginning. The second they lay eyes on it, even before they touch anything, the state of that debris field is going to start telling a story. It will give us our first real clues about the plane's final moments.
Basically, investigators are looking for one of two things. Scenario 1. They find the main body of the plane mostly in one piece. That would suggest a controlled ditching, that someone was actually flying the plane and trying to land it on the water right up to the very end. But Scenario 2. If they find just a huge field of scattered, shredded debris, that would confirm a high-speed, catastrophic crash, an uncontrolled dive straight into the ocean.
And of course, there's the Holy Grail, the ultimate prize, the two black boxes. You've got the flight data recorder, which will tell us exactly what the plane was doing, every button pushed, every system alert. And then you have the cockpit voice recorder. It holds the last 2 hours of sound from the cockpit. It could finally tell us who was in control and maybe, just maybe, why this all happened. And the experts are pretty certain that even after all this time underwater, that data is still perfectly preserved, just waiting for us.
So in the end, after all these years, will new technology finally give us the answer? For the families of the 239 people who were on that flight, this is about so much more than just tech and data. It's about finding some kind of closure, ending more than a decade of just not knowing. And for the rest of us, for the entire aviation industry, it's about making sure something like this can never, ever happen again. So we watch, and we hope, and we wait to see if this incredible high-tech gamble at the bottom of the world can finally bring this story to an end.